So tonight's attempt, cheese stuffed onion rings. Everybody's breading them, so I'm going to batter them. Of course, right? Let's get started with this. So half the fun of any onion ring adventure is of course separating the onions. It's not a terribly difficult trick if you've done it a few times. If it's your first time, it gets interesting. I'm going to keep these fairly thick, so I don't know if I'm going to go to individual rings or not. We'll see. But I'm just going to do that for the red onions and the white onions, and we'll get right back to it. Okay, so after a fair bit of fiddling about, I have my onions separated, set up in little cups, and it's just a matter of lining them with the cheese. Most people are using mozzarella cheese. I saw some, was it Monterey Jack get used earlier? I saw some Swiss get used earlier, so it looks like there's room for creativity with this. I'm going to do some mozza and some cheddar, and we're just going to see how this works out. Start with one of these big old ones here. That's a lot of cheese going into that thing. Might be a better way to do this. I'm going to give it a few tries, we'll get back. So my initial attempt didn't really work here. I'm going to go back to, what everybody else is doing, which is really hard to get from this camera angle, but basically just jamming the cheese in between the two layers there. Still kind of shooting my center onion ring out, but I guess that's life. Could have gone with thinner cuts of cheese, or I could have gone with every third ring instead of every second ring. I'm sure there are lots of ways to improve this little situation. But basically, cheese between the onion rings. Pretty standard there. I'll do the rest of these and we'll see how that looks. So out of all of that, before I went nutty with this little project, I managed to get 6 of these more or less done. And I've got 2 little onion bowl things here that I've kind of filled with broken bits of cheese, and we're going to batter around those, see how those do. Alright, batter. For the batter, most people are doing a breading. I'm doing a batter, just the way it is. I'm using pretty much the same combination that I did for the corn dogs. So 1 cup of flour, 1 cup of cornmeal, cup of milk, 1 egg, salt and pepper to taste, and this time I'm throwing about a half of a teaspoon of baking powder in there just to hopefully make it a little lighter and fluffier. I'm going to save you the fork this time around. So after the corn dog fiasco, I was advised that dipping them in flour, shaking off the excess first, will help just about anything stick a little better. So we're going to do that this time with our cheese stuffed onion rings. Just kind of dip them and batter them once my oil gets to temperature. So here we have some quick test results here. Without putting flour on it, the onion just plain fell straight on out. Putting flour on just a piece of onion, this batter didn't necessarily stick on there too great. I'm thinking I'm going to try 1 or 2 of the rings, but I might end up trying breading anyway, even though breading never works for me. So we'll see how this goes. Well, I guess we'll use one of the cheddar and red onion ones as kind of a sacrifice here. See how it works. Hopefully it will stick. I mean, this is supposed to be a breading thing, and there's a reason people do things properly. Someday I'll join that trend, I suppose. We'll see. Yeah, this is not really a dippable type thing. Okay, so what we're going to do for this one here is we're just going to pack it and wrap it around. And then I think I'm going to switch to a breading. That's going to be interesting. This is not quite how I envisioned this video going. I'll be honest. So, I'm just going to stuff that in there. Try and wrap this sticky beast up as best as I can. This is going to be good. Perhaps Shocks can help me move the camera over while I drop this puppy in, because this is going to get messy. Oh my. And here we go, hoping for the best. Those are some sticky, messy fingers. You watch that, I'm going to wash my hands. Alright everybody, how's that looking? Well, it's still not too bad. Hasn't exploded or anything. It's a good sign. Yeah, I can definitely see why people do this as a breading, and I can definitely see why they do it in thirds as compared to a half. Excuse me. I think I could use a little bit more time on the other side there. This is definitely not what I saw on Facebook. It's been fun so far though. An onion and cheese, it's hard to go wrong. And that is what we get from that process. Big old batch of deep fried question mark right there. We'll cut that open in a minute, but let's see about trying that again. Doesn't look anywhere near as bad as it did when I stuck it in there, so I was expecting much worse coming out of the pot. Next up, I'm just going to try packing one of these little bowls like that, and then we'll drop it in and watch that cook. This batter is just not sticking to this little onion bowl, but here we go. So I think we're definitely going to switch it up for the rest of these so-called cheese stuffed onion rings. I am quite curious to cut these open though, see how it looks. Turn that oil down just a bit. I'm going to say that sound means ready. Alright, so as I understand it, this process is supposed to be fairly simple. You just, coat your whatever with your flour. But like I say, this never works for me. Put it into the egg. Get it thoroughly coated so that your breading will stick. That's already not working for me. Skip the fork. We'll just get right in there. Get good and messy. And then just got some panko crumbs with some of the powdered pain here. Coat that on there. There's the dog getting in his traditional video bomb. We've got a single coat one done right there. But the best ones I've seen had double coating, so I'm not quite sure how this will turn out. In it goes. That oil's a little too hot now, I think. Holy splattery Batman! And that's kind of what usually happens to me with trying to bread things. It kind of explodes when it hits the oil. And I end up with kind of a nasty looking mess. Let that oil cool down a little bit and try this again. Well, based on my attempts to batter things and my attempt to bread things both, I'd say I failed at this particular easy project. But I'm still quite curious to cut those first two open and see how they looked. So, at least I get a little something to eat out of this experiment. Let's take a look inside this first one here. This was the breaded stuffed onion rings. I'd say the most successful looking one, but yeah. What do we get when we cut into that? That's an awful lot of uncooked dough in the middle of that is what we got there. But the outside of it doesn't look so bad. Alright, I'm not quite sure what to do about that. Here we've got the one that was done kind of like an onion bowl. Stuffed a bunch of extra cheese chunks in the middle. Now that looks a little bit better, but I've still got a good chunk of uncooked material filling that up there, so maybe we'll bake these off in the oven to finish those, make them a little more edible. Third try. That's just horrible. I don't even know what to say about that, but we'll cut into it anyway. Yeah, at least that one's edible without going back into the oven, but it looks nasty. And this one here, I don't think we need to cut this open to see how it looks inside. It's proudly displaying itself for us. So yeah, there's that. We'll eat this one with a knife and a fork though. I'm going to wrap it up here, and I've got some more baking and such to do. Clearly I've got some learning to do about breadings and batters before I can try and pull this off again. If you got any advice for me, feel free to throw it in the comments below. Lord knows I could use it. Thank you all for sticking around to this point, and I will see you next time.